Your countries are going to hell. That was Donald Trump's blunt message to world leaders during a fiery 56-minute address to the United Nations General Assembly, a speech that was part political rally, part personal vendetta, and entirely unapologetic. But here's where it gets controversial. Trump didn't just criticize policies, he openly mocked the very leaders sitting in front of him. In a return to the combative style that defined his first term, Trump railed against two of his favorite targets, immigration and climate change, while dismissing the UN's role in global problem-solving. He argued that mass migration is eroding national identities, holding up his own hardline U.S. immigration policies as a model for the world. Human rights advocates counter that migrants are simply seeking safety and opportunity, but Trump brushed that aside with his trademark bravado. I'm really good at this stuff. On climate change, Trump doubled down on his skepticism, calling it a con job and urging nations to abandon renewable energy in favor of fossil fuels. This, despite the overwhelming scientific consensus that human activity is driving global warming. He even warned that Europe's suicidal energy ideas could spell the end of Western civilization. The speech also touched on foreign policy flashpoints. Trump rejected calls to recognize a Palestinian state amid Israel's latest offensive in Gaza, claiming such a move would reward Hamas for its atrocities. He demanded the return of hostages and positioned himself as a peacemaker, a role he's openly linked to his desire for a Nobel Peace Prize. On Ukraine, Trump urged European nations to match U.S. economic sanctions against Russia, blasting NATO allies for continuing to buy Russian oil. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? He scoffed, warning that without unified action, tariffs on Moscow would be less effective. Later, in talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Trump even endorsed NATO countries shooting down Russian aircraft if they entered Allied airspace. The speech wasn't without personal gripes. Trump complained about a broken UN escalator that left him and Melania stranded, and a malfunctioning teleprompter that delayed his remarks. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter, he quipped, noting that Melania nearly fell when the escalator stopped abruptly. And this is the part most people miss. Trump's remarks were peppered with false or misleading claims, including the assertion that London's mayor wants to impose Sharia law, and that U.S. inflation has been defeated, just days after the Federal Reserve reported it had risen. European leaders have spent months trying to keep relations with Trump stable, hoping for his support in ending the war in Ukraine. But Tuesday's speech made clear that Trump is willing to challenge allies as much as adversaries. So here's the question. Is Trump's blunt, confrontational style exactly what global politics needs right now? Or is it a dangerous way to alienate allies and undermine cooperation? Where do you stand?